Welcome to Fresh Off the Boat. My name is Arjun Seth and I run EdBrand. We are a college admissions consulting service based out of New Delhi, India. Today, I'm very delighted to reconnect with Aditya Kumar, a student I've known since 2009, I guess, when you were at Vasant Valley School. So welcome to this edition of our podcast, Aditya.
Thank you.
What we had lined up for you was to make it a bit different from our previous sessions. And since you've had more than 15 years to reflect on different things that happened in your life, or rather, over your high school, middle school, and college years, and now work life,
Yeah.
what is it that you think is important for a high school student thinking about college, and how do you then reflect back on your early experiences at Grinnell in Iowa that you sort of chose to attend? How do you link the two topics?
So I guess my route might be a little different from other students. I knew in high school going in, I was interested in economics, but I didn't really know what else I was really interested in. So I was always looking for somewhere where I had the choice to try out different classes and try out different subjects just to see what clicks. It worked out for me that, going to a smaller school, econ clicked, and so that was great. But what I found super useful, as a high school student, you don't really know a lot about what life is going to be like after college. A lot of your focus is on college and getting that, program or degree that you think might be good for your career. And what I found was that, that there should be a whole lot of pressure in that. I think what you should focus on is some of the flexibility and academic strength of institutions. And then, you kind of learn what you have to learn on the way, and you find what interests you. So that's kind of a mindset that I had going into college. This is just a stepping stone to getting a good job. But going to a liberal arts college, going to a smaller college, you get that interaction with faculty and other students. You get to explore a lot of different topics. I went in thinking econ's all I wanted. Found out math is something that clicked for me. Math is something that I found interesting to a certain extent, and math was also marketable. And so I tried a couple other subjects like computer science, physics, took classes here and there, and then once I figured out what I liked, it made life a lot easier after.
Fantastic. So about Grinnell, obviously there's something special about being in a remote location and being a liberal arts college with a fairly intertwined, not just student community, but administration and people sort of connected with the town. How was your reflection on the time that you spent in that setting as a person? What is it that you learned and you credit to?
So I can answer that question in two groups. There is the personal aspect of developing you as a person, their interpersonal relationships with people on campus. And then there's also that question of, you're in a school that's somewhat geographically isolated. And what does that mean for you long term in terms of career prospects, being in the loop, per se, with different companies? And I think there are pros and cons with both. On both sides. I think going to a small liberal arts college from an interpersonal relationship and adjusting to a new country was super helpful. Small school, you really get to know everyone. You build those one-on-one relationships. People are very welcoming, and you really are able to immerse yourself in the experience of going to a college in the US. That's something I feel you might not necessarily get at a larger institution. So going into Grinnell, week one on, I just belonged there, made good connections, made good friends. And these are connections and friends that last a while. I'm still in touch with almost everyone I was friends with at Grinnell. And it's a small but tight-knit community, so they're always available as resources. Now going on to the second aspect, more of the jobs and long-term career aspects, I think a smaller liberal arts college in a isolated location can become a challenge. It takes a certain type of student to make that work. You have to be driven and know what you want to do for your job and start planning early because companies aren't going to be coming to Grinnell to recruit you. And that was at least the case back when I was at Grinnell. I know they've been working on that the last couple of years, but that drive will have to come from the student because a lot of students who go to these smaller colleges are thinking about academia and postgrad and PhD programs or Peace Corps or volunteer programs off the bat. So if that's not something you're interested in and you're interested in going into the job market in certain industries, then that does become a challenge just because you don't have a lot of companies coming in and not a lot of interaction with, I guess, the world outside of Grinnell while you're there.
Right. So you're currently working in finance and you use business analytics, and we talk a little bit about how that, after graduating from Grinnell, sort of you chose a career path in applying math and economics using business analytics. So what is it that the Grinnell education helped you to not just decide, but also then move towards this direction?
I think a lot of what that Grinnell does is it helps you think outside the box. That creative problem solving, and the ability to take on a problem and solve it, work your way through it is something Grinnell will definitely help you with, and small liberal arts colleges in general will force you to do. You get a lot more one-on-one time with faculty. You get research opportunities. You get the ability to do projects outside school, partnering with professors and faculty. And so just this can-do attitude, and I think the much lauded liberal arts way of thinking is definitely something that helps you long-term. You might not be a subject matter expert, but you can become a subject matter expert given the opportunity.
And so, of course, most liberal arts colleges are kind of questioned because they might not offer many pre-professional tracks, and business analytics being one of them. But do you think that was true in case of Grinnell as well? Like you have limited, say, courses, say in finance and economics, or in quantitative math, which could be applied in business or operations research and so on and so forth?
I think the curriculum definitely skews towards academia and not pre-professional classes. I know that's growing, but it's not quite there yet, specifically at Grinnell. If you're interested in academia, it's the perfect school to go to because it really sets you up well to make that jump into a PhD program of your choice. But I think from a pre-professional standpoint, there will be some challenges. Grinnell doesn't claim to be a school that I think targets those pre-professional kinds of students. They're looking for more rigorous academic thinking and research. But on the flip side, what I found is even without that pre-professional coursework, a lot of students, especially who study in the quantitative fields, end up doing really well and finding good jobs. Just because of that, I think Grinnell is recognized for their academic rigor. And so when you get through a program like a math program or a science program at Grinnell, employers do look favorably at that. And you can have a small, well-connected network of alumni who are willing to talk to you. So what we do lack in pre-professional coursework, you really do make up in academic rigor and the alumni network, and just the fact that Grinnell is pretty well known in the Midwest.
Fantastic. And so if you were to look at how your career trajectory sort of moved forward, and then pursuing the grad school at a very different school. So we'd love to know more about College of William and Mary. And then how do you compare it with your undergrad experience as well? I know that grad school and undergrad are two different things, but of course, in terms of setting, the student body, the number of people around campus, connections to maybe larger cities nearby. So how was it like to be at College of William and Mary for your grad school, and what did you actually study?
So it was very different. Take a step back. I studied a master's in business analytics at the College of William and Mary. It's a one-year program through their school. I applied 3 years after I graduated from undergrad. So I graduated in 2014, worked for 3 years, and I did my master's. The idea for me switching tracks was, hey, I'm doing some applied maths, some applied econ. I really need that that extra zing in the resume that can make me switch full time into the data science field. And so that's why I did the business analytics master's. And I thought William and Mary really helped that way. It was a very different feel from Grinnell. Just straight away, and that could be because it's a business school program, but straight away, everything's focused on you getting a job. Like, when your resume is polished, you have career fairs week 1 and week 2 of your program. You're constantly networking with alum. You're constantly networking with different companies who are coming in for meet and greets and interview days. So it's a very different experience. And even going in undergrad, I know there's you're also building your social life. You're meeting new people from different countries. You make friends. You're going to be going through this experience together for 4 years. So there's that personal aspect of things. I think grad school, that's lacking, and that might be lacking in the shorter term programs. It's almost transactional, where you're going here for a year to 10 months. You want a job on the other side. So everyone's hyper focused on their work and their job search. And there isn't as much of a cohort feeling to it, was my experience. You get to interact with people a lot more professionally and interact with them almost as if you're in some kind of networking event that's a year long. But on the flip side, what you do find in these master's programs is a lot of the students coming in are super hardworking and have achieved a decent amount in their years between college and master's program. So it's hyper competitive, and that kind of pushes you a little bit too. So overall, a very different experience.
But if you look at, I know you were a master's student and it's pre-professional, but were you able to also make observations on the undergrad program at College of William and Mary, not as a student, but vicariously through stories that you hear?
It was a little difficult at William and Mary specifically because all the undergrads live on campus, and then the graduate students live on campus, but the graduate dorm is just separated out into a different corner. So you very rarely interact with the undergrads. But in terms of the opportunities that I saw, all the companies coming in, the big networking events, the socializing with different companies and trips out to the big cities to meet companies in person, that carries for both undergrad and master's students. So you have those opportunities at William and Mary, which you might not necessarily have in Grinnell. And also being on the East Coast, that proximity to DC, New York, Boston, Philadelphia helps a lot, because all of these companies are more than happy to send representatives down for meet and greet sessions and recruiting events and such.
Okay, let's spend some time to learn from you about the field of business analytics. What does it really mean? What do you study, and what do you really apply in real life in a financial?
Yeah, sure thing. So you can think of business analytics almost as a salesy kind of name. Really, what you're learning is data science. So it's a lot of programming in Python, R, which are the most marketable tools out there right now. Your upper level stats classes, if you're a math major, they'll put a slightly flat name on it, call it machine learning. And you'll do a lot more around data management, data infrastructure systems, and things like that. So really, it's a jack of all trades kind of degree, because it's a 1-year program. You'll get a little bit of exposure to all of these fields. And then the idea is you find an industry that is of interest to you and you get deep in that. So for example, my first job out of college after my master's program was at a mortgage-backed security firm. So this firm was building, and my role in the firm was a team of 3 people who were building a program that companies could use to standardize and analyze their mortgage data. So the idea being, we built a program in Python where anyone can submit just an Excel file, name it whatever, and we can figure out what their Excel file looked like compared to the same Excel file in another company, and benchmark that across large data sets that the government puts out, etc. So it's a lot of work with data, programming, using machine learning models to not necessarily always do flashy things, but do things like understand what a data set is without looking at it, or understand how you can make a process repeatable and automated so that you're saving time for a company. So that's one aspect of it from a data pure perspective. My second role was Capital One, where I worked at it from a more traditional BA role. And what you're doing there is you're at this bank which has billions upon billions of gigs of data, and you have to try and figure out and manage different portfolios, make sure that the bottom line is doing well. So as an analyst, you're responsible for that bottom line. So right now my role is in fraud, and so a lot of what the work I do is monitor fraud rings, fraud attempts that are coming into the market, that are impacting the company, and try and mitigate that, put strategies in place that ensure that fraudsters aren't able to continue making attacks the way they do, and also prevent any future attacks that they might come up with. So it's almost a whack-a-mole game where fraudsters will do something, we'll react, they'll do something else, we'll react, but that just goes on forever. But the business analytics comes in terms of being able to look at the data, identify what's going on, identify patterns, and then be able to make decisions based off of that.
Fantastic. Thanks for that explanation. It's definitely useful for me to figure out, and when I advise students, I have some more data points. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to switch gears and get to know you, and also let viewers get to know you. So my first question is, inspirations over the years while you were in college and at work and finishing your data science master's program, and now again at work. What is it that inspires you? Are there particular authors, YouTube channels, people that you've known, and reflect on what they've actually helped you with?
I think a lot of what motivates me is family. My parents I was lucky enough to have parents that supported me flying off to a different country, staying there for 4 years, paying for my education there, and then letting me grow professionally in a different country. So that's definitely a major motivator to make them feel like they made a good decision and hopefully make them proud in something. So I think that's definitely a major motivator for me. And then the other motivator always is I have a competitive streak in me, so I always want to try and reach certain milestones, and that way, be that professionally or personally, those milestones always keep you driven to do well. So a bit of both. I guess slightly more honorable reason and slightly more selfish reason.
Super. So if you were to identify 3 words that describe your strengths, adjectives that tell us about your strengths, which words would you pick?
Ooh, that's a hard one. Adaptive, I'd say, was one. Being able to a small liberal arts college in Iowa, work in market research, finance, different states. So I think that's something I've been able to do. Patient, I think, is the other one. Being an international student, sometimes the job market can be a little rough. So there's a lot of patience that goes with it, and to balance out the patient's persistence. So it's this careful game of being patient, but also being persistent at the same time. So I think those would be 3: patience, and.
So if you were to look back at this period of lockdown or work from home, what are the few things that you've learned about yourself, and what are the few things you're working on to self-improve or increase your productivity, or just becoming this better person that you want to?
So I think the first thing you realize during this whole lockdown is that you're lucky that you haven't been impacted. I know a lot of people have been impacted by coronavirus, the economic impact, the layoffs, the furloughs. Being in a position where I have a job at a company where I can work remotely that hasn't been impacted in any way, kind of makes you feel grateful to have that opportunity. In terms of how I've been growing and developing, I think that it's still a learning curve. It's still only been 2 or 3 months, and I think it takes a little while initially to adjust to working from home. Now your home is your office. because your home is where you live. It's just one room into the next, so your life kind of blends together initially for a little while. But after that, I think what's key is just making sure you don't let work drag into your personal times for yourself. So picking up little hobbies here and there that are more than just working and then waiting for the next day at work. Like I bought a guitar, hoping to try and learn. Started reading a lot more books, things like that. Just being able to take a break, step back, and take some time for yourself, so that then during the day you're able to go and be more productive.
So, which book recommendations do you have for our listeners? Not just necessarily this time, like over the years, which books have inspired you?
That's a good question. There are a lot of different genres that I've been reading, but recently I read a book called Fewer, Richer, Greener. And I think I enjoyed that book because a lot of what you read in the news these days is all doom and gloom. And that book just takes a step back, just appreciates how far humans have as a group have come over time, and how even though people have been so-calling, making these doom and gloom predictions throughout history, as a group of people, as a society, we've just constantly been developing. And so the message is nice and just different from everything else you're reading right now. Just taking a step back and saying, hey, we're not that bad. We've actually done pretty good things, and sometimes we mess up, but as a whole, humans are doing a pretty good job. It's a nice positive message.
Absolutely. I think it's just, if that's the one book everyone could read and ignore the news for a bit.
Exactly.
So thank you, Aditya. It's been fantastic reconnecting with you and learning about your life after so many years. So what we also planning to do with these recordings is to invite our students to ask questions, and I'll ask you to volunteer, and if you have time, you could sort of reply on email. So
yeah, absolutely.
Thanks. So looking forward to staying in touch and perhaps even inviting you to a few panels that we might have, given the time zone difference. Yeah, let's see if we can work that out.
Yeah, absolutely. It was
safe and have a great year ahead. I think it's just a matter of time. Things should become better for all of us.
No, absolutely. All right. Thank you, Arjun.